Hello guys, Sir Grandelot here. Today I want to give you my advice for starting to gather a nice collection of relics that will serve as a base to build many of your characters as you progress through the game. As we go through the story and increase our level, we'll get some 4 and 5 star relics that can help us improve our characters. Unfortunately, in addition to the lack of relics, one of the main issues in the early game for relic progression will be the lack of fodder material. The most reliable way to get fodder relics without spending energy is to run the simulated universe and clear the elite monster in room 4. Unlike the Abyss in Genshin Impact, killing elite monsters and the final boss in the simulated universe provide some resources, including relic XP material. This can be a time-consuming activity, and I personally just do it as a side activity while I'm doing other things, just like the artifact for the running Genshin. So it's important to avoid spending energy farming relics before level 40. Things are a bit different in the simulated universe though, as you can start to obtain guaranteed 5-star relics for its 2-piece sets well before level 40. The problem is that you will be limited in the selection of relics you can farm. A difficulty 1 only worth 5 and 6 will give you a 5-star relic. Those 2 sets are not bad, but are fairly limited in utility. From level 30 to 40, it would still be better to invest your energy in ascending your characters, their light cones, and leveling up their traces. But if you want to get a 5-star relic or 2 a day, it's not a disaster to spend 40 or 80 resin in the simulated universe worth 5 or 6, especially if it gives you a bit of gut fix and lets your brain release some sweet serotonin. Just don't use too much energy and save your fuel. At level 40 you can start farming Caverns of Corrosion. You'll get a guaranteed 5-star relic each run from any cavern. Keep in mind, at level 50 you can start obtaining 2 5-star relics in a single run, so once you have a few usable sets for your most important characters, it may be better to put relic farming on pause until you hit level 50. As for which relics to farm, Simulated Universe 3 will give you a set that is generally good for any damage dealing character and one that is good for any support. While most damage dealers want attack percentage and elemental damage orbs, support unit may want hit point, defense, attack percentage, energy charge, so especially for the Fleet of Ages set, make sure to have a good amount of pieces. Moving on to the Caverns of Corrosion, Path of Drifting lets us farm a set that is very good on nearly any character, and one that can be pretty okay for all healers. If you've played Genshin Impact, you may be having Maiden Beloved flashbacks. But things are a bit different in Honkai Star Rail. We cannot dodge or use a burst animation to avoid incoming damage. In later stages of the game, having a properly built Natasha or Bailu or both can make a huge difference in your ability to sustain incoming damage, and will need to build 2 teams. The Musketeer set will not be as good as more specialized sets, but it provides stats that are useful for nearly every character in the game. It won't take long before many of your characters will have 4 pieces of a Musketeer set on them, either 4 or 5 stars, and this is a very good way to invest your early game energy on a Generalist set and use it to equip many of your characters. You quickly notice that even after doing several Simulated Universe and Caverns of Corrosion run, you will never have enough fodder. Once you have relics of a correct main stat, just level them to 6 or 9 a bit at a time. Going to 12 is pretty expensive, and going to 15 takes a ton of resources. I did it just for 1 relic and I regret doing it even though the result was great. I could have leveled up to 9 several other relics, and my overall team's strength would have benefited way more from that. The Strongbox equivalent of Star Rail is way more expensive than in Genshin Impact, but it's also a huge improvement. While it takes 10 5-star relics to obtain a new one, being able to pick which piece we want is on average much better than recycling 3 artifacts and hoping that we will get the piece that we want out of 5. Once you unlock the crafting feature, you will receive enough material to craft a couple of 5 pieces of your choice. And while you shouldn't go and recycle all your unused 5-star relics, it can actually be a very convenient way of completing a set or fishing for a desired main stat on a specific piece. Bronia's team buff relies entirely on crit damage, and I use the crafting system to generate 3 Musketeer chests. The first 2 were S, but the third one had crit damage as main stat, and my Bronia's build was complete. There's a crafting item called resin that we can obtain for free once per patch from a basic battle pass. This resin allows us to also pick the main stat of a relic that we're crafting. It's extremely valuable and worth saving for the later stages of the game. The way I see it being ideally used is for a character who in a specific slot absolutely needs a specific main stat and doesn't care too much about other substats, and for whom you just need that ideal piece to finish the build and stop farming relics from a particular cavern or corrosion or simulated universe world. Since we'll all be spending weeks, months farming relics, I believe it would be a huge waste to use the crafting component down. I'm sure there will be highlights on YouTube of people using it to craft an elemental damage orb with insane stab stats or something crazy like that. But if you use that resin for an elemental damage orb that turns out to be S, you have to wait a month and a half for another piece of that resin. Going back to what happened to my Bronya, considering that on her chest piece she only needs crit damage, I believe that could have been a good candidate to use my resin on. But since I will be farming that camera corrosion for a long time, I did not even consider the option of dumping that precious resin like that while I could drop the same piece. Once you reach level 50, you will have to spend several days worth of energy to ascend your characters, their light cones, their traces, etc. After that is done, you can either go back farming generalist set or start farming more specific ones. The quantum damage set is great for Sealy, but the other set isn't super amazing, and this will unfortunately apply to many covers. Some covers of corrosion with overall mediocre utility may be really good value if both sets can fit 2 characters that you have though. Not everyone has the same characters from the standard banner, and if you have both Wealth and Himeko, you like them and you want to build them, the fire and imaginary damage sets are obtained from the same cavern. That may be great value for some people but terrible for others, so you will have to decide what to do based on the characters in your account. I hope you will find these early game tips useful. Let me know how your relic farming is going. Are you getting some cracked pieces or are you getting ass blasted by the RNG gods? We are all in this together, so sharing the pain is caring. I'll be checking out. Bye guys and take care.